If you have kids or have had kids, or even if you've just been existing in life, you've probably heard of the show iCarly from Nickelodeon. Even if you haven't heard of iCarly, not to worry, I'm here to inform you, help you through this moment. iCarly was a TV show for children and teens which aired for 5 years between 2007 and 2012. It starred Miranda Cosgrove as the title figure of Carly and her co-star Jennette McCurdy, who played Sam, Carly's best friend. Today we're going to be talking about Jennette McCurdy specifically. So anything else that you may have heard about Nickelodeon or the producers, we're going to put that to one side for a second, and we're going to talk about specifically Jennette McCurdy and her experiences and what she went through, not only on Nickelodeon but in her life. Jennette McCurdy recently brought out a book which was very upsetting, I'd have to say. She touched on a little bit of her time at Nickelodeon and her experiences with the producers, in particular Dan Schneider, but mainly focused on her upbringing with her mother and what she went through during her upbringing, plus the time on the show. Jennette McCurdy was thrust into acting by her mother from the age of 6. Jennette was given the role of Sam on iCarly when she was 14 years of age, and for her this was a massive milestone in her life, bringing to a culmination of a lot of hard work and hard toil and effort to get an actual proper role on TV, and this was seen as a huge opportunity for her. During her time on the show, she had the misfortune to encounter and suffer at the hands of the producers, the creator, Dan Schneider, and she tells of her time with Mr. Schneider, which to be honest does not sound like she had the best of times. It sounds like she suffered a lot of bullying, a lot of uncomfortableness around Dan Schneider. She even put out, once the show had ended and Jennette was suffering immensely, mentally and physically, she put out a couple of vines. Remember vines back in the day when they were very popular? They were like the version of TikTok back in the day there. And she put out a couple of vines which were very suggestive of the mental anguish that she was going through at the hands of Dan Schneider, and they were very worrying at the time.
Dan Schneider, I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. Look what you've done to me. Dan Schneider, I know you're watching my Vine. Do you like my Vine? Vine. Look what you've done to me. Looking on a sitcom. Bruce. It's just because I'm anemic. Yeah.
That second one suggests that she was possibly being abused physically, and those bruises were at the hands of Dan Schneider. I mean, we don't know for certain, and we'll never know, but that's what it's suggesting.
Next iCarly episode would be I put a live grenade in Freddy's pajama bottoms. So that was the other one. So those were the two threats that I issued to Nathan Kress via Twitter when he was sassing me yesterday. Because at the end of the day, I love it when the cast gets sassy with me, because I get to write all the scripts with some very talented writers, but I can put them in any horrible predicament I choose.
Throughout the book, Jennette refers to Dan Schneider as the creator, which I found a little more godlike, like she's calling him a god, and he is far from that. A bit off, not because it's wrong or what she's doing, but because the creator sounds... She says, I feel like the creator has two distinct sides. One is generous and over-the-top complimentary. He can make anyone feel like the most important person in the world. The other side is mean-spirited, controlling and terrifying. The creator can tear you down and humiliate you. I've seen the creator make grown men and women cry with his insults and degradation. He'll call people idiots, buffoons, stupid, dumb, sloppy, careless, retarded, and spineless. During her time on the show, Jennette was offered an amazing opportunity. She was out for lunch with Dan Schneider one day, and Schneider offered her own main character show, her own show, not a secondary character on the iCarly show, but once the iCarly show had run its course, she would get her own show, and that excited her a lot. The creator said, I even have the name picked out for you. Just Puckett. So if you listen to me, take my advice and let me guide you, I promise you I'll give you your own show. To me that sounds very worrying. She was dependent on his advice and guidance and closeness in order to get her own show. Basically, if she did what he wanted, then he would give her her own show. And that to me sounds a little like grooming on that sort of level. Then later on, once she had turned 18, in case you don't know, I know most people in the US will know, but the age of drinking is 21. And at 18, whilst I'm sure lots of people drink underage, not by people who are supposed to be their boss, men. So they were out for a meal or for lunch to have like a business meeting or whatever, and Dan Schneider comes up with this. Come on, no one's looking. You're fine. The Victorious kids get drunk together all the time. The iCarly kids are so wholesome. We need to give you guys a little edge. In case you didn't know, Victorious was another very successful, very popular Nickelodeon show at the time. So Dan Schneider is pitching them against the iCarly kids, trying to get them to drink, whilst also admitting that the Victorious kids, whilst also underage, also get drunk all the time. Which is a little bit worrying for him to be saying that he knows that the kids on the show are getting drunk. And is he the one handing them the glass? That's another question that needs to be asked. But he's trying to get Jennette to drink, and he's quite forcibly so. And then he does something which is so inappropriate, I can't tell you. And I can't imagine why he would think it would be okay. But I can understand why he thinks it's okay. Because that's what he's been doing to everybody else. And this is how he gets what he wants. And this is how he gets his kicks, basically. He put his hand on my knee. You're cold, he said. Here, take my jacket. He takes his coat off and drapes it around me. He pats my shoulders, and then the pats turn into a massage. You're so tense, he said. My shoulders do have a lot of knots in them, but I don't want the creator to be the one rubbing them out. I want to say something, to tell him to stop, but I'm so scared of offending him. And that is how it happens. This is how people like this get away with things all the time. She can't say anything because it's going to offend him. If it offends him, he's going to get angry. If he gets angry, she doesn't get what she wants. It's a vicious circle and something that they can't get out of because they are part of the whole thing. And at the end of the day, still a kid. I mean, at this stage, she's 18, but she's still a child, especially compared to him, who is a grown adult, and her boss, the one who can hire and can fire her. She doesn't have a leg to stand on, and she doesn't have a hope. It's a horrible situation for her to be in. After the iCarly show finished, she was given her own show, except it wasn't her own show. She had to share the show in the end with Ariana Grande, and this wasn't part of the deal that she originally agreed to and what she was promised. But she was also promised during the time of the show to be given one episode in which she would be listed as a director. That was one of the key aspects of her getting that gig. That is what she wanted. It would be great for her to have that on her CV, on her resume, that she was directing one of the episodes. However, it didn't turn out that way, and that was without telling her. That part of the agreement was washed away. One of the producers came to her and said this: "There's somebody else here who doesn't want you to direct. Very badly, they don't want you to direct. So badly that they said they would quit the show if you did." Imagine being told that you are so badly not wanted to do something that somebody was willing to quit if you got that one thing that you were promised. But imagine having that whipped away from you professionally. That's something that you really, really, really wanted and you were promised, and that was not going to be happening because somebody didn't like you so much that they would quit. This upset Jennette to the nth degree, because one of the main reasons why she took the role in the first place was due to that agreement. But she felt upset because she had fallen for them just promising something that was never going to happen anyway. Interestingly, she does touch on what happened latterly at the studios, where when accusations came out about Dan Schneider, what happened there and how uncomfortable it was and what was going on there. The creator has gotten in trouble from the network for accusations of his emotional abuse. I feel like it's been a long time coming and should have happened a lot sooner. I appreciate the amount of trouble he's gotten in. It wasn't just a slap on the wrist sort of thing. It's to the point where he is no longer allowed to be on set with any actor.
Today my special guest is the executive producer of the Amanda Show, Schneider. Hi.
So that must have been a difficult time for all of them, with so many rumours going around about what he's been accused of, but also everybody with their own story to tell, but nobody able to tell it and nobody willing to tell it because of the position they're in. Then later on, after her show is cancelled, she gets a conference call with a bunch of the Nickelodeon executives, and this was what they did. They're offering you $300,000. Think of it as a thank you gift. They're giving you $300,000 and the only thing they want you to do is never talk publicly about your experience at Nickelodeon, specifically related to the creator. Now this is huge. They're actually offering her $300,000 not to talk about Dan Schneider. This is unbelievable. Why wouldn't they want it to come out about him? Why would they not want people to talk about what he did and what he's been doing? Nickelodeon offering me $300,000 in hush money to not talk publicly about my experience on the show, my personal experience of the creator's abuse. This is a network with shows made for children. Shouldn't they have some sort of moral compass? Shouldn't they at least try to report to some sort of ethical standard? And she makes an excellent point, and she knows it as well. And this is what makes her such a very interesting person, and such a... I got the feeling that I listened to the audiobook of it, and I got the feeling that she was a very warm and caring person, but she didn't get a lot of things. She even says in the book that she doesn't understand a lot of things, basically because of the way she was brought up. She doesn't understand why people do things, and to her, being told not to say something is just wrong. She didn't even cross her mind to take the money. She just said no, straight up no. And Nickelodeon make shows for children. They should be all about the children. Doesn't matter about what Dan Schneider is or can do or wants to do. Doesn't matter. What matters is protecting the children that work on the show, protecting the children that watch the shows. That is all that matters. That should be the only thing that matters to them.
My name is Samantha Puckett. I'm from Seattle and I love fried chicken!
As I said earlier, Jennette got the role of iCarly when she was just 14 years of age. And she had been pushed into acting by her mother from the age of 6. She was taught everything and told how to behave, how to act surprised, how to act happy, just how to be around producers, casting directors, just everything. But everything was geared towards acting. Absolutely everything was, this is how you must behave, this is how you must act, this is how you must do this is how you must do that. Eventually she got the role of iCarly and she couldn't be happier. Everything's going to be different now. Everything's going to be better. Mum will finally be happy. Her dream has come true. When I said she couldn't be happier, I meant her mum. But this was so sad because upon getting what would be most people's dreams of getting that particular role at that time, the only thing that happened in her head was her mum would be happy. Her mum would finally be happy, and that's all that she wanted, was to keep her mum happy, not herself. That wasn't anything part of her brain. She'd been brought up her entire life to want this one thing, and that was her mum's dream. She didn't even want it, not even a little bit. Jennette starts to grow up. She is naturally a very petite girl. She's very small and she's perfect for the role of what she's playing in a children's teens acting role. However, as teenagers do, they start to grow up, they start to develop a little bit, and this worries her. She doesn't want to grow up, because if she does, she won't be able to play the roles that she's been set on Nickelodeon, and this concerns her because it would worry her mum. She wouldn't be able to please her mum anymore and things like that. As she started to develop, this was what came to mind. If I start to grow up, Mum won't love me as much. The irony about her part on iCarly was that she was cast to play somebody who used to love eating and love binging on stuff and love just gorging on any old crap that she could get her hands on, and that was part of her character. However, that wasn't her in real life. She was the complete opposite and the absolute opposite of that. And I can't help but thinking that maybe Dan Schneider realised that, and actually that's why her character was developed like that. I don't know, I could be wrong, but that is how it feels to me. But in terms of trying to stay small and keep those roles coming in and keep the role that she has, this is what her mum, her own mother, suggested to her, and I can't believe it. Well, sweetheart, if you really want to know how to stay small, there's this little secret you can do. It's called calorie restriction. I was absolutely incandescent with rage when I heard that said, because I cannot believe that any mother would actually intentionally want their child to develop anorexia. Absolutely cannot believe it, and I can't get my head around it. But how disgusting was that? I can't. It's really upsetting, because EDs are not fun. For anyone that's suffered through any of them, they're not a fun thing to happen, and they are not to be taken lightly. And this mother intentionally made her that way, and I'm disgusted, and it really was upsetting. On top of all the struggles that she's going through, she's growing up, she's trying to stay thin, she's trying to keep her mum happy, she's trying to work at the same time whilst with a predator at work. And the only thing that's keeping her going is the fact that she is the main breadwinner of the family. Her father's not got a proper job or a job. Her mother claims that she's busy trying to make her daughter into a child star. Maybe if your father got a job that paid the bills, I wouldn't have to depend on a child. Her mother actually said that to her. This feels like we're in the 1940s or something like that. It feels like that sort of age, but this is in the 2000s, late 2007, 8, 9, 10, that sort of region. We are in the modern ages, and she is putting that on her own child. That is disgusting, and it begs the question, is this happening over and over and over again throughout Hollywood and everywhere? A child should not be the main income source for any parent, and this is why I talk about it with family vloggers, because it's the exact same thing. A child should not be their parents' income source. Jennette was paying the bills. She was paying the rent on the house and all the electricity, gas bills and everything else. That was her job, her role in the family. Now, apart from the obvious trauma that her mother was putting her through with trying to develop an ED and trying to keep her small and trying to do everything. It was such a really uncomfortable situation at home completely. During shower times, she was forced to have her mother shower her until she was 17 or so. In a shower, she was forced to shower with her older brother. She was about 12 and her brother was nearly 16, and she showered them together. She also gave her body exams, breast and vaginal exams, until she was 17. The whole abuse was off the chart, and she went through all this. Everything she went through was while she was on the show at iCarly. And one thing that strikes me is that these TV shows, these TV companies should not be allowing these situations to happen where the parents are so invested in getting their kids a spot on TV that it affects their entire life in this way. Now, fortunately in TV, there are a lot more regulations put in place to protect child actors as opposed to family vlogger kids. But in this sort of situation, there's nothing to protect them. There's nothing. And that needs to change. Nickelodeon, whether they knew or not what was going on, they had an obligation to keep their kids, keep their actors safe and away from harm. And they didn't do that. So I think on this level, it needs to change. When she was learning how to act, she was put in a situation where she became the girl who knew how to cry. Now, if you don't know, one of the top things in Hollywood or any acting is being able to cry on cue. It's not a very easy skill, and any child actor or any actor has a leg up immediately if they are able to have that special skill. And fortunately or unfortunately, Jennette did have that skill. But this is what hit me. I know this is a common thing amongst actors who do this. They have to think about a tragic situation, something which upsets them, which makes them cry. Now, for a 6, 7, 8-year-old, imagine being forced to think about tragic events such as her brother's dying in a house fire. This is things that her mum told her to think about. Imagine thinking about your brother's dying in a house fire, your brother dying of meningitis, your brother dying of appendicitis, your brother dying of pneumonia, or your grandpa dying of old age. Those were things that her own mother told her to think about. Now, I realise why it's done, but I don't think I can agree with it, because imagine having those things forced into your brain at such an early age. That can't be mentally good. It really, really can't be mentally good. Crying on cue was no fun for me. It was one of the more miserable experiences of my life. Sitting in a cold casting office, imagining tragic events that harmed my beloved family. Another instance where there was so much controlling and coercion going on that it just feels like she didn't have a choice in life. She wanted to quit acting. She'd had enough. She doesn't like acting. She wanted to quit, and she told her mum, "I don't want to act anymore." Mum looks at me in the rearview mirror A mixture of shock and disappointment fills her eyes. I immediately regret saying anything. Don't be silly. You love acting. It's your favourite thing in the world. No, I don't want to, I said. It makes me uncomfortable. Mum's face looks like it just ate a lemon. It contorts in a way that terrifies me. Never mind. Let's just forget I said anything. At this point, her mum went from incredibly upset, she was going hysterically, she was crying hysterically, and at this point, when Jennette quickly changed her mind, her mum quickly snapped out of it. Like, that's fine now, brilliant, let's have a laugh sort of thing. And the problem is that any mum reading between the lines would think, well, she's still not happy about it. She's just saying that to make me happy. So there's a bigger problem here. We need to look at this situation and try and figure out what's going on and what she actually wants. But not this mum. No, she decided that everything was fine and everything was dandy and we'll just carry on and have her continue to be unhappy for the sake of her mother. So this entire situation with Jennette was really, really upsetting, and I can't believe everything that she went through. It was just traumatic just listening to it back. If you have the opportunity, please go and download the audiobook. I'll leave a link in the description below, because it is really, whilst traumatic to listen to, it's really insightful, and she reads it herself as the author, so you get a real sense of how she felt about her whole life. It really is good. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. We're going to talk more about not only Jennette's life on Nickelodeon, but other actors who have come forward about the Dan Schneider situation. We're going to delve deeper into that. I know some of you may already know the situation, but if you don't, please follow and you'll find out some really, really shocking truths about Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider in particular.
A path of integrity. And it hasn't always been easy.